Hello, this is ELM Prep 1, and we're going to talk about numbers. Almost everything dealing with math has to do with numbers at one point or another. Whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, on up to however large you want. And we have what those would be counting numbers or natural numbers. We could throw in a 0, and then we would have another element. Now, 0 is considered positive at all times. The other numbers can be considered negative at times, -1, -2, -3, on up. So when we look at our whole numbers, we're thinking of everything from minus infinity up to plus infinity. So minus whatever numbers, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. Normally we think of these numbers as going from, on a number line, our number line would have 0 somewhere in the middle, and then we'd come from the negative infinity and go up to the positive infinity, and we'd come down this way, 4, 3, 2, down to 0, 1, 2, 3, up in the positive direction. This would be the negative direction. All right, so that's pretty straightforward. Whole numbers, we all use them. But lots of times we are looking for numbers that are not exactly whole numbers. So we might want to know, well, this isn't an even, if I were to measure this, I might not come out with an even measurement. I might come out with something in a fraction like 5.5. And so our whole number portion is 5, but we have this fraction part. And the question is, where does that come from? Well, if I took some point between the number 4 and the number 5, I would have all sorts of fractions in here. 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, 1/16. 3/4 might be up here. 5/8 might be in here. But we would find there would be an infinite number of fractions in here depending on how small they were or how big the denominator, like 1/257. That would be very small, and it'd be right down here, so I'd have 4 plus that small amount all the way up until I got to 5. If I went above 5, then I'd be 5 and whatever fraction. Now when we see a number like this, we normally read that as 5 2/3, and we read that in that manner because really it's 5 whole numbers plus 2/3. So it's a whole number plus some fractional part. Normally we do not put the plus there, but when we read that number, we read it as 5 2/3. That seems pretty straightforward. But what if I didn't want to have it split up this way as a mixed number where I have a whole portion and a fraction portion? Well, I could make it all fraction. I could say, well, this is really 5/1. I can write any number over 1. And then I want a 3 on the bottom. So I have 5/1 plus 2/3. I want this to be a 3 on the bottom. So what I might do is I might multiply the top and bottom by 3. Well, that makes the bottom 3, and the top would then be 15. Now that I have the same bottoms, I can add them together because I'm adding the same kinds of things here. I'm adding 2/3 and 15/3. Well, it makes sense if I say 15/3 plus 2/3 that I would add the tops and I would end up with 17/3 as a total amount. So one of the things about adding and subtracting fractions that we will find out about is that if I'm going to add some fraction, to add these fractions, these two numbers have to be the same. If they're not, then I have to change them in some manner so that they are. If they are the same, over here on the end point, I will just bring that number over, and then I will add my numerators. And then I might be tempted to reduce that. We'll talk about that later. For right now, we just need to know that if we add or subtract fractions, we need the same denominator. 4 take away 2 is going to be 2/3. Notice we only add or subtract the numerator. We do not add or subtract the denominator. And I'll talk more about that later as it comes up. So, numbers. Well, let's put a number line here. And I'll just put some number A here and some number B here. And in looking at that, I don't know what the value of A and B is, but it looks like it's a little bit bigger. It looks like this would be further down than this. And this would be, well, we could just give it a value, -5. And we could give this some value +6, 7, 8, something larger in total distance there, maybe +7. So one thing I can say about A and B directly is that A is less than B. We always consider the negative to be smaller than the positive. Any negative number is considered smaller than the positive number. So one thing we could say is A is less than B. Well, what if we wanted to say what's the sum of A and B? Well, here's A plus B. Well, what we're really doing is we're taking this length and adding it to this length. So one of the things I could do is I could go to the left and then take this length here and start there and then take that length up to there. And so there would be my A portion here and my B portion here. So my result of A plus B would be greater than 0. We don't know exactly what that value is, but we know it's positive, so it's greater than 0. Now it's possible that these would be equal. If they were equal and I add them together, then I would be equal to 0. So when we do number lines with relative terms, we hope for a little more information. So doing a number line such as this, and they might give you something like this. And then based on that, in doing problems on your ELM test, you assume that they're not lying to you and that this distance could be equally marked off in equal increments. So this would be +2, +3. This would be -2, -3. So I could approximate, based on these two values that they gave me, that this is a little more than 3 and this is a little more than -2, a little more negative. So I might say -2.3. It's a little more negative than 2. This is a little more positive than 3, so I might say 3 plus 3.2, or 3 plus a little bit. So then, well, I know A and B, the relationship, A is less than B. That's a given because the A is negative. So A is less than B. But what if I wanted to sum them up? A plus B. Now I'd say, well, what's the relationship? Well, this is 3.2 positive and this is 2.3 negative. So if I have 3.2 and I take away 2.3, I'm going to have some positive left over. So I can say that A plus B is going to be greater than 0 because I know it's positive. Any number that's greater than 0 is a positive number. Anything less than 0 is a negative number. All right, so we've talked about the concept of plus and minus, and I see we're running up into a 10-minute mark, so we're going to stop now and we'll just review that we talked about whole numbers and fractions and the number line. Well, thank you for tuning in. Have a good day.